Hello, and welcome to another podcast. We are really enjoying these, Liz, aren't we?
We are.
So, I'm Paula Carter. I'm the founder and director of Initio Success. And Liz,
And hi everyone, I'm Liz. I am the founder of The Good Space.
brilliant. So, our subject today is communication and engagement. And I'd like to say that this really, really excites us, but all the subjects do. And we've just actually, we were saying just before we joined this podcast, is how there are common themes that are coming through that are interwoven around a lot of the
Mm,
topics that we're doing and we're talking about and we're sharing with you. You'll see them come through if you watch all of them. So in terms of change and communication, so when organisations go through change, communication isn't just a supporting activity. It's a thing that determines whether people feel grounded or
yeah.
overwhelmed or connected or left behind. And in every transformation, the way that I guess we communicate shapes the emotional experience that people have as they navigate the uncertainty.
Mm,
And it's how we build a trust and reduce cognitive load and help people make sense of what's shifting around them. And in this episode, what we're going to do is we're exploring why communication and engagement are so critical to successful change and how leaders can make complex ideas feel accessible and what it really takes to create spaces where people feel informed, they feel safe and able to contribute and not just feel that they're being carried along. So, as
mm.
we said, it's a really exciting opportunity to come on this podcast with Liz. Whilst we're on a mutual crusade to help amplify the importance and value of effective communication and engagement. This really is your specialised field, Liz, and I feel really, really honoured and privileged to be able to be on this podcast with you. So,
Ah,
should we
thanks,
get
Paula.
going?
Yeah, let's get going. I love communication. So, Paula, you've got a reputation for making complex change feel simple and accessible. How do you approach communication so that people feel informed rather than overwhelmed?
Oh, I do like that question. So I translate complexity into a language that people can actually use. I'm the person that comes into a room and can ask the silly question
Mm,
where people have felt uncomfortable. And I don't know if any of you have seen this happen before, is where you've wanted to ask a question, wanted to ask a question, and you've asked it, and then you've seen the weight lift off people's shoulders because you were the one that asked the question. There is no silly question. It just means that at that time you didn't understand. What I
mm.
try to do is avoid jargon. And if I
Yes.
hear jargon, I ask, what does that mean? I've worked in IT change, and when you've got specialists in that particular area, and there's the need to translate it into users' needs, it's
Mm,
really important to be that conduit to be able to translate that.
mm.
What does it mean to me? So
Yeah.
breaking information down into those digestible pieces, and then to make sure that those key messages are repeated consistently is
Yeah.
really, really important. Consistency is key.
Yeah.
Um, what I also do is I've tailored communication to different processing styles. And I think that's going to be something that I think would be really good
Mm,
for you to elaborate on, because some people need visuals, some people
mm,
need conversation, and some people need written detail. But when
mm,
that communication meets people where they are,
mm.
the the overwhelming feeling is reduced and understanding increases. So would you like to elaborate on
Oh
those
gosh,
things that in there?
absolutely.
Thank
I
you.
think one thing to really call out is change isn't an event, it is a program, isn't it? And there are
Yes.
lots of things that
Yes.
happen. It's not a one-time thing. And when
Mm.
we talk about it not being a one-time thing, it's because people are involved. And whenever people are involved in something, there's a
Mm.
lot of complexity as well that you're navigating there. So for me, when it comes to communicating change. I think having a multi-channel approach, like you've said, is really important. Written summaries, visual roadmaps, I think to help prevent overwhelm, if you have an idea of the roadmap, and you can create a timeline and make that timeline very simple. It doesn't have to be complex. Sometimes we like to overcomplicate things as humans, but really stripping that complexity having a clear timeline with visible phases. So often, if I mean, in my previous experience, when I was delivering a change program, there would be multiple phases to a change program that we were delivering. And sometimes we wouldn't actually know what phase 5 might look like because it was dependent on the other stages. So it would be really clear and specific on what phase 1 and phase 2 would include. And we would then communicate the other phases to come and give an estimated timeline of those changes, just to really help reduce that overwhelm that people could be experiencing. I think having recordings so people can watch things back multiple times, because when we are feeling overwhelmed, our ability to retain information and process information is reduced, particularly if you're neurodivergent. So having some recordings, having a transcript as well available is really helpful. Having FAQs as well can be helpful, because there'll be loads of questions that are prompted, and often people can't move forward until those questions have been satisfied. So having some FAQs, I think, is really important. Having some named points of contact. So if you have questions that aren't satisfied by the FAQs, who do you go to with those questions? Can you speak to your manager? Is there someone else maybe that's there to help? That can be really helpful. And I think just having different points of contact, so making sure that your managers fully brief, or the leaders and your managers within your organization are fully briefed on the change, so they can be embedding that as well, is really helpful.
I think that's brilliant. I'm a big fan of FAQs,
Mm,
and having those as verbalized, like a recording as well as an FAQ,
yes,
as well as a paper reference. But it's also important to keep those up to date,
yes,
because you can quite easily lose trust and engagement if they don't trust the information that's there.
yeah,
And I think what I like about what you're saying is we're ultimately, without realizing, when we're delivering change and we're setting this scene and this environment, is we're creating the culture of how we're going to be delivering change,
mm,
not just for today, but all future changes that come. And
mm,
I think also to sustain the engagement is keep checking in, because no one's perfect. And I like your approach to it, because we are very much of an agile culture now.
yes,
Whereas I used to deliver change when it was in a waterfall method that we used to use, often when we planned it and planned it and planned it, by the time it got ready for delivery, it had expired.
yes,
So having the blend of the two is really good, but having those regular temperature checks, and just verifying, are you happy with, what is it you need? Are we hitting the mark? Having those dialogues throughout, I think, is really
mm,
important. And I think what's also really good, and I've found from experience, is to be able to relate to it, to be able to help people feel human, feel humbled that, the people that are leading it understand. And I would imagine that for you, your role in communication, and particularly with your business as well now, is storytelling is so important and so valuable, for people to be able to relate to it. Could you just help people understand how that connects with change in terms of
Oh,
storytelling?
absolutely. So storytelling is what makes change feel human, actually. So data tells us what's happening, and data is really important, but stories help us understand why it matters. Through storytelling, you can deliver emotion, you can share context, you can share intention, you can even share uncertainty, and leaders have the opportunity to be vulnerable when sharing that uncertainty too. Again, I think wherever we can be human, that helps other people feel more accepting and validated and heard as well. So storytelling, I think, helps to normalize emotion, but it also helps to paint a picture for people as well in a way that data just can't. And I think, again, if you're neurodivergent, the why is really important. So as an ADHDer, I am motivated by the why. So tell me, don't just tell me what we're doing, but tell me why we're doing it. Tell me why it matters. Tell me what it's going to deliver in terms of colleague experience when this change has been delivered. Tell me what it's going to deliver for our customers. Tell me what it's going to deliver for our business and the opportunities that that might create. So I think whilst the change might be something quite small, elevating it in terms of that story can be really impactful. And people remember how you make them feel. They don't, and I think we sometimes forget that. And storytelling can be an incredible vehicle to help someone feel something afterwards. So, what do you want people to feel? Do you want people to feel excited? Do you want them to feel curious? Do you want them to feel optimistic? Like, really, I think when you're considering change, considering how you want people to feel at the start of the communication and kind of tapping into that it can be really powerful.
I love that. I really do. And I think the psychological safety, you're right, is for people to feel safe. And I think really as well is what we're committing to. When we say we want to create them, do we understand what they really are? I've had change done
Yes,
to me. And I
yes.
think I base how I work and how my business is how I would like to be treated, how I would like to be engaged and
Yeah.
communicated to, and and having and setting that. And I think if you normalize those feelings, because like we say, everybody's unique, everybody's different,
Mm,
um, but if we're going to set the expectations, we have to deliver those. That's the
mm,
most important
mm.
part of it, and for that to come across as that being genuine, not
Yes,
just paying lip service,
yes.
because it builds the trust, it builds the engagement up,
Mm,
and the encouragement that people feel that they feel valued. And I think for me, for when I'm actually working with people, is I try and model calmness and curiosity.
mm.
I make help people to feel heard, but I set the rules and the boundaries first, and that might sound quite hard, but it's like, no, this is the setting that's going to be.
Mm,
This is how we're going to work together, because safety isn't created just by words. It's about how we bring that into the way that we behave, the way that we demonstrate that. So is there anything else you'd want to add around the safety and the environment of a room that we have the
well,
people
I
in?
think you touched on something really important there. Communication isn't just what we say. Communication
Mm,
is how we say it, it's our
yes.
tone, it's our
Yeah.
body language,
Yeah.
it's how accessible we are as leaders when we're delivering those change programs. If we're not available for people to ask questions, then that in itself speaks volumes, doesn't it, as
Very
well?
much so.
So I
Mm.
think if a leader is nervous delivering a communication, again, that nervousness kind of fosters a level of uncertainty, doesn't it? And it can create some wobbles and a rippling effect. So
Yeah.
how you deliver is as much is as important as what you say. Yeah, really great points. Thanks, Paula.
Well, I remember one of the podcasts we recorded, and it's about reading the room.
Yes.
You can have somebody that's very, very vocal and resistant to change, and somebody that's very quiet. What I found from my experience is have those one-to-ones as well. But what
Yeah.
also helped is I introduced drop-in clinics.
Yes.
People just to come in and just ask a question, and have those. But if you're going to do that, again, it goes back to consistency. Is create it. And even if only one person comes into that drop-in session, it's helped that one person.
Mm,
Just having
mm.
those on a regular basis.
I think that's again another really important point when it comes to communication. Communication can't just be one way. People don't
No,
like just to be told. I think
no.
there's a place for telling and informing, but giving people the opportunity to share as well, trying to create that two-way feedback loop wherever you can. So, like you said, drop-in sessions are really important. We used to run town halls, which was an opportunity for people to ask the senior leadership team questions about things, and
Yeah.
having those as regular formats as well, because a one-off town hall isn't sufficient to build that trust and invite people to be really honest and vulnerable in their questions that they ask. So I think having them quite regularly so people can gauge um, that it's a safe space to ask these kind of questions. Also, we used to have on the intranet, if the FAQ documents didn't satisfy and you didn't want to ask your manager, there used to be a neutral inbox that we used to use where people could just send their questions to that neutral inbox. They didn't, and we never shared the name of that person, so we anonymized it, and that anonymity again can create a bit of safety, can't it? People are asking questions. So I think, Paula, we've talked a lot about communications, that it's not about polish, is it? Because we're talking about
No.
humans engaging with other humans. We're talking about trying to reduce overwhelm where possible, so people can take in what matters. And when we talk about taking in things that matter, again, communication best practice is to try and communicate where possible one thing at one time. Sometimes you can't get away with that, so no more than three things, because if you're communicating lots of things in one go, people
Mm,
again are going to be overwhelmed. So think about your communications as a program of activity as well, and what do you need to communicate at
mm,
first. And people don't need all the detail to start off
yeah.
with, do they? It's the story, coming back to that storytelling, like we said, and then you can go into a bit more detail at other points in that journey.
Mm, mm,
Because we're trying to translate something that's maybe quite complex into something that's
mm,
really easy and simple for someone to digest, repeating some of those key messages to help make sure that there's consistency, that there isn't any overwhelm. And then when we talked about storytelling, it's about adding that human lens, making it appealing, making it attractive, and trying to bring people with us on that journey in a way that only storytelling can do.
yeah.
Is there anything else that you'd want to add?
Yeah, I think just to finish there, I would say check understanding because I've
Mm,
worked with organisations and I have been caught out where people felt afraid to say no.
yes.
And it's not until you've got further down that you've realised that, oh, they actually meant yes or the opposite, or they've said
Mm,
yes and they meant no, or, it's check understanding is, and when somebody's going to commit to that, because it could be based, their answer could be based on fear. So I
yeah.
think understanding that part of it, and understanding that what I've said, because it's my responsibility for the message it elicits. So it's checking that feedback. But other than that, no, that's brilliant. Thank you, Liz.
Oh,
I've enjoyed that one
wonderful.
again. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, amazing. Well, thank you, everybody. If you would like to find out more, we're recording a series of,
Mhm.
well, a mini series of podcasts all around
Yeah.
change and the different parts of change. Although, as Paul has said before, there's a lot of overlap between them because there are a lot of themes that keep coming up when we're exploring change. But if you'd like to find out more, you can follow and find out more from Paula and I on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. Thank you, Liz, and thank you all for listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much.